So I wanted to show you what happens when you wall in a fireplace and then for 20 years don't fix your roof. Oh yeah, you like that? This wire doesn't seem to do anything, which is interesting. Yeah, so you think that makes sense, it's pretty bad. That is an intake right there for this. But if you look behind this, I mean, holy shit. What the hell happened there? So, I finally got the insert and the prefab fireplace out. Upon closer inspection, this is all rot. Yeah, it's even down to this board right here is all rotten. So subfloor is shot. And yeah, I had some trouble taking the chimney out, but you know, it seems pretty good now. I got it mostly out. Yep. Very tired, but this is how it turned out. I threw some plastic on it. These joists are total. I'll have to sister them and put in a new subfloor. It's about a 4 foot by 4 foot section, about a 3 foot by 4 foot section up here. The real hell was getting the chimney mount off because for whatever reason they used screws, nails, butyl caulk tape, and also butyl caulk, I believe. It took forever. I had to cut it into pieces and get each piece off and get the roof panel on top of it. That was overlapping it off for the most part, and it was wet out, so I ended up climbing on the trusses of the roof that were exposed and working around myself. Must have taken at least an hour. Fucking ridiculous. So I put a new vapor barrier down before I put the insulation in, and I reinforced it with a little bit of duct tape. Put in new joist and blocking for the floor to attach. You can see I sistered right here. However, it didn't go down the full span because this whole area is going to be getting a couple jack posts. Okay, so I have the new subfloor in. I put caulk all around it just because I like to seal these things up, and this is not what is it called? Tongue and groove. I also stuck some foam in that gap over there just to save on some caulk. And next I'm just going to put in some tar paper as a vapor barrier, and this floor will be pretty much done. And here we have it, a nice vapor barrier of tar paper, making an interesting looking arrow shape. That's all going to be framed and turned into a fireplace platform, or rather a wood stove platform. So now I just have to do the ceiling. That should be a lot easier than the floor though. Water damage? What water damage? Yep, just need to plaster the crap out of it now. Clean up these edges a little too. Pretty good progress. Alright, so this is after the first mudding session. That's just a little plastic I put up there to help keep the attic air out of the room. Alright, so I have 2 coats of primer on here, which I just put on one then the other using Kills primer. One thing I can definitely say is doing this stuff by headlamp, because the lighting is so poor in this region. It comes at a cost. I can make out some lines here. It's actually not that the wall isn't smooth, it's that there was some fuzzy drywall cardboard stuff, that paper on it, that was sort of sticking out. And it just absorbed a little bit differently, and you can see it. My merges on the side are pretty good. They're not too noticeable. So my grading there was pretty good. Again, one of the spots that's really obvious is right there, and it's because of that paper. That paper coating just did not want to cooperate. So here we have the 2 coats of paint that matches the wall. Turned out pretty well. I'm acclimating some of the wood from outside that I'm reusing. This is just stuff I tore out, and I'm going to reuse. Got rid of the rotted areas. This is just some new stuff to acclimate. Whenever I do some trim, which I, for the most part, make my own trim. I haven't for the crown molding, mostly because I don't have any bits to match the crown molding. So again, going to Lowe's to check out what they have. But back to my point, whenever I make some trim, I always make 5 or 10 extra runs of it so that I can use them later on in projects like this. Just unexpected bits of trim I need. So here's the framing for the new fireplace platform. So basically what I did was I retrofit the existing area, which was the profile of an insert fireplace or embedded prefab fireplace. And I kept as much of the framing as I could, which is why I have this shim right here, these 3/4 shims. And that's because I was reusing as much of this as possible. As you can see, it already had a lot of stuff done to it, so I didn't really want to redo all of it. And right away I noticed the floor is quite saggy. I have a good 3/4 inch underneath, right there where it's low. And I'm going to be solving that with these, which are called jack posts. These are both 10K capacity, and I'm going to be sticking those underneath the floor where it was all rotted out. So basically, I'll elevate this back to flush, and then I'll do the final screw down. I use screws because this is purely compressive, and screws are just better at holding. In general, they keep things snug. Alright, so here this is with plywood. I also stuck those jack posts down. According to the labels, those are actually 20,000 pound, but if I recall correctly, the manufacturer on the website actually said 10, so who knows? I don't imagine I'm anywhere near that anyway. I gotta say, it was a bear jacking this up. I must have gone up, well, I think I went up about 2.5 inches. That's how sunk the floor was in this region. So, got some, let's see, 2-inch screws every 6 inches or so. Actually added one more piece of framing just right along here, just because the stove I selected for this area is going to weigh 600 pounds, so I want to make sure that this subfloor doesn't give way. And I paid a little bit extra for a nice plywood one versus some chipboard. So I think it's in pretty good shape. It's very, very sturdy. If I jump on it, there's pretty much nothing going on, which is exactly what I want. So, alright, so I just did the trim, and I got the best match I could at Lowe's, but I can tell that even though it's the same general shape, it doesn't have 20 years of paint and caulk and other crap all over it. So I just matched it the best I could, and so I had to fill quite a lot. And I still had to contend with some of that water damage as well. So the ceiling's a little bit warped, and I just kind of worked around it and used lots of caulk. So here's the chimney that I removed. This is the inner pipe, and you can see by the design of this that, let's see, where's a good spot? Here we go. So right here hold on, I'm doing this upside down. Right here, these points that stick out between these and lock them together are actuated by this inner frame here, which is pressurized by the insertion of the inner pipe. This is air insulated, obviously. But removing this, it was way up on the house, and I had to use a screwdriver and just pry this. And yeah, technically I could have theoretically gotten above it and pulled out the inner pipe to just sort of pull the whole thing apart all at once, but it was probably a good 9 feet up in the air to get above the ridge of the roof, so it was problematic to do that. It was easier with a screwdriver. Actually ended up screwing the ladder into the deck because it was wet out at the time. It was in the middle of the night, and just to keep myself from slipping or anything on the ladder. So it was a big project at the time, which is why this is so gnarly and torn up. That, and I didn't really need to reuse it, although I'll probably keep what is left and still useful.